Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we're going to talk about the recent controversy surrounding the Legacy factions. As you are aware, Warhammer the Old World is split into two parts. Core factions, which will get ongoing support, and Legacy factions, which will get a PDF rule set for each of the factions. We don't know exactly when. They've stated a few times at release, and then a few other times they've stated shortly after release. This has been back and forth for a while now, but what we do know is that the PDF factions will not get ongoing support at the time being. It's been a bit of a controversial moment, especially since the PDF factions, as you can see, are the Lizardmen, Dark Elves, Skaven, Ogre Kingdoms, Vampire Counts, Demons of Chaos, and Chaos Dwarfs. Rather big and very much loved factions in the Warhammer Fantasy setting. Now, obviously this was something that they did tell us around 8 months ago in one of the development diaries, that they will release these units as a free PDF service to fans who have these classic armies on their shelf, so that they can bring them to battle for all time's sake. At that point, they already used the term Legacy faction, so people shouldn't have been surprised. Now, I'm not actually defending Games Workshop here. In fact, we're going to have to talk about the very poor wording that was done shortly before the launch of the pre-orders. Literally the day before the pre-orders started, Games Workshop had another developer interview, and they kind of shot themselves on the foot. Yeah, there's a reason, right? So, there was mention of the Legacy factions. A few of the factions from the previous Warhammer Fantasy Battle game will not feature in Warhammer the Old World. This is in terms of game's rules, model ranges, and the ongoing background narrative. These Legacy factions will, however, get free downloadable army lists so people can try out the new system using their older model collections. More about this in the coming weeks, though please note that they won't be considered legal for tournaments and won't receive ongoing support. If you want to come on this long-term journey with us, the factions in the Forces of Fantasy and Ravening Horde books are the ones to collect and play, and we want to be pretty clear about that. Okay, so by this point, people were losing their minds, right? And that is kind of understandable. Even though it's been said once before, it does actually sound pretty bizarre, especially when you look at it in a number of ways. Regarding the ongoing narrative, well, this is the Great War Against Chaos. We're not there just yet, we're not at the Siege of Prague, but we're eventually going there. By that point, the Dark Elves do actually launch invasions towards Ulthuan at the same time. The Chaos Dwarves border Kislev. Kislev is much larger of a country than it is in, for example, Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition lore, or even Total War Warhammer 3. So if you look towards the Warhammer the Old World map, yep, the Kislev territories do border it, so it's something that you're going to be expecting. There's other races, like for example Cafe, which is coming, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but they also have a long-standing history with the Ogres, for example. Already in the Warhammer the Old World map, we've seen some hints towards the Vampire Counts. Yes, the main Vampire Counts, the Sylvanian von Carsteins, are not active at the moment, but the interactive map literally shows a area with Wallach Harkon, and another thing is it does very heavily hint towards the Black Grail, something that happens a little bit after this event. We know that for a fact unless the timeline has completely changed. The Skaven, yeah, not really active at the moment as they're pretty much fighting amongst themselves and they're pretty much non-existent at this point. This is why people forget about them. And the Lizardmen are MIA. There's a few in the Dragon Isles, which is actually quite close, and I think the Old World map does show the Dragon Isles, or at least a little bit of it, but those are without a slan, so they're more primal than actual proper Lizardmen. The fact is, the narrative is easily added in, and we do know, for example, that Graham McNeil, who's written one of the new novels, Lord of the Lance, wants to potentially do some Dark Elf lore. This was put in an official interview in Warhammer Community, so if they didn't want to get people's hopes up, perhaps that should have been omitted. The big thing, however, here, and this is why I think people got really mad, is they said, yeah, it won't be considered legal for tournaments. They didn't specify this is Games Workshop tournaments, right? Because, as you might have been seeing, a lot of content creators, tournament organizers, and so on, myself included, have said, when we start organizing events, they're going to be there. Because one thing people don't seem to realize is that Games Workshop events aren't the only events that cater to Warhammer. In fact, I would say sometimes the events that are independent are usually better, because this allows for FAQs, different rule systems, different fixes here and there for quality of life, and it avoids the situation of Games Workshop dropping an FAQ for a faction a week prior to a tournament and saying that that's the one that you need to use. So yeah, you'll still be able to play with these races, and I imagine that the community will still keep them alive, giving them any quality of life fixes that they will need, especially for the bigger tournament circuits. I wouldn't worry too much. I imagine the reason why a bunch of races are going Legacy is because there's likely going to be a lot more than just the core factions right now. As you can see, there's 9 core factions, but in the rulebook, if you go specifically through the fluff areas, in the section which is usually devoted by playable races, there's more additions. We know Kislev and Cathay are coming eventually, but Talia and Estalia are there as the Southern Kingdoms, and also Norska, curiously enough, has its own entry as if it was its own separate entity from the Warriors of Chaos, which is something that a lot of people have been asking for a while, especially as Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, which by this point we know that the Cubicle 7 writers are involved here, have been kind of doing through their own supplements, so it would be kind of interesting to get a proper Chaos Light, but also, you know, whalers and stuff like that in the future. I believe there have been some pretty strong rumors about a plastic war mammoth out there, which, I mean, would be cool. It's definitely would be better than that giant resin model, that's for sure. So in theory, we could end up with a bunch more playable factions, and that's why they decided to omit some others. It's also a really weird thing. I've heard some people saying, oh, it's because these factions are available in Age of Sigmar. And yeah, fair point, but demons are agnostic in terms of setting. You can get them in Age of Sigmar like you can get them in 40k, and obviously Warhammer Fantasy, that was a thing, and I believe Games Workshop said there was plans eventually for demons in 30k. It's a bit of a weird thing, because 30k seems to have been getting slightly ignored lately, though that might be due to delays, as it does seem like Games Workshop has slowed down with certain reveals. It could be linked up to manufacturing issues and so on. So I imagine that they've got all the plans laid out for this first edition and decided, well, if we're going to introduce a bunch more races and factions, we're going to have to cut out a few for the time being. And the reason why I'm saying the time being is as follows. It's very obvious that Games Workshop did not expect this stuff to sell so well. A lot of people would use the example of, well, Bretonnians and Tomb Kings have been gone for a while, so people were going to buy them anyway. But as you are aware, I'm a really inquisitive person. I did get in contact with a bunch of retailers who unfortunately had their stock reduced for the release of this pre-order. And some of them said stuff that was also made public by these retailers. I'm not putting them on blast on this screen though, mostly because I don't want them to get in trouble just in case. But yeah, they said that Games Workshop said they weren't anticipating such a big hype for the return of the old world, which honestly does make a lot of sense considering that it does kind of feel sometimes, the way that they talk about it, that they don't think that this is going to do well, and they're just trying to play on people's nostalgia. Yet, considering that the two biggest games in the franchise are Warhammer Fantasy setting, you know, this is Total War Warhammer and Vermintide, they perform much better than most other video games in the Warhammer setting. Yeah, people are hungry for the old world. This is going to have to give them some realization that maybe, as time progresses, they're going to have to expand their scope and scale. I mean, it's very odd to get a map of the old world eventually leading to Cathay, because we know that Cathay is a playable faction, and it's just not going to include everything else. The fact of the matter is, yeah, this is subject to change if sales go well and people start demanding for it more. Another big reason is obviously when you start looking towards the TV shows, Games Workshop are aware how popular Warhammer Fantasy is, as they did in the financial reports say to Amazon that they could even do Warhammer Fantasy-based stuff. Age of Sigmar is not going to sell as a TV show, as Age of Sigmar still needs a little bit more fleshing out. No disrespect to that setting, but Warhammer Fantasy is better grounded in terms of possible TV shows and movies and so on. I genuinely believe that this does sell well and it does end up being quite popular. They're going to see a reason to keep it going. It's also a very big reason as why we're starting so far off from the Siege of Prague. Also, they want to kind of build up to it and milk this bastard for as much as possible, really. That's probably the best way of saying it. I am aware that some Games Workshop people are actually watching my videos because of the whole early access stuff and so on, so I will say very clearly, it would be a colossal mistake not to expand on the other factions. It doesn't have to mean that it has to happen now. Later down the road would be great, especially since people asked this in the Warhammer Fest Q&A, and they said there's a possibility. from going to possibility to just, hey, this isn't happening, is a little bit disappointing, especially since a lot of these races are very much beloved. Eventually they'll get roster redesigns when it comes to Age of Sigmar, those of them that are still available. Why not take advantage of that and have the older models still available and, you know, get double the sales, man? You want more money, right? Obviously, to you, the fan base, I would say keep vocal, respectfully, of course. Don't start calling people idiots, because that's not going to get anyone anything. But, you know, respectfully mention that you still want these races. Make sure that it's still in their minds. Some of you are from the Total War universe, and you might know that obviously we've just won a big victory. We're waiting to find out how big of a victory that was. It's happened with one company before, and it can definitely happen again, as long as we make sure that we keep our minds level-headed and we keep the community together. I want to see Warhammer the Old World succeed. I do not want a second End Times. Nobody does. We don't care that Age of Sigmar is a thing. We're not insulting it. I don't know why they have to keep mentioning, oh yeah, the End Times still happen, the End Times still happen, and getting their lore wrong, by the way. This is a big thing here. There's a few almanacs where they were getting their lore completely wrong in a way to justify the End Times and Age of Sigmar, which, again, I don't care. I don't care. It's already happened. We're going to the past. Let us enjoy our old world setting, and I'm pretty sure more people would be willing to try out Age of Sigmar, the old god from Warhammer Fantasy. I think a healthy approach rather than a distant approach is the best way to go. But with all that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. We'll start a bit of a discussion. Yeah, let's hope for the best. Obviously, time will tell. I really hope that they're not shooting themselves in the foot here, as, not gonna lie, I would love to see Chaos Demons being supported in the future, especially for the whole Siege of Prague situation, which we know that we're going to, and I would love to see a little book on the Dark Elves invading Ulthuan. That would be an absolutely fantastic campaign pack. But yeah, I'll see you all again very, very soon, guys. I wanted to just divert a little bit and have this discussion.